All right. So as usual, time's just non-existent, and I have to pack and leave to go away to do some work for some friends of mine in Vancouver Island that are stuck. So gotta go do it. Gotta help when you can help. But neighbor's got an excavator going. Hopefully it's not too loud. But it's kind of weird reading these indoors for me. I prefer to be outside. So there's just no time to go do this. So I think what I'll do is I'll throw up some scenery from this past year, past years, or whatever. You can watch while I read this. All right, here we go. In the late 1960s, I was 13, my brother 10, and my youngest brother 8. Our dad had died 3 years previous. We lived in the country on a dead-end gravel road, and everyone who lived on the road was either a relative or a step relation. We lived in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I won't get much more specific on the location to protect the people still living there. The UP is a small community. We all helped each other out while getting crops in, cement work, building, or whatever a neighbor's next project was. In this case, the project was deer hunting. One of the neighbors came to us 3 kids to help with a deer drive on his back 40 acres. The acreage is part of a beef farm and it was well fenced and maintained and had a 2-track road inside the fence around the whole 40 acres. My 10-year-old brother was given a gun and put in a post position at the southwest corner of the 40. We were all familiar with firearms, but because I was a girl, I had to be in charge of the younger kids of the neighbor. At least we got to walk along the northern fence line where it was easier to go through the 12 inches of new snow. My youngest brother and a couple adults were going through the woods of the 40 east to west. Another neighbor was also posting along the western fence line in the opposite corner of my brother. About 3/4 of the way through our drive, there was a lot of shouting, also yelling at me to get the kids down on the ground. 3 deer were running full speed towards us. This didn't make sense. They were running right towards the drivers. No one could get a shot at any of them. The deer knew we were there and didn't care. They were full out running and winded. When I met up with my brother near his corner, he was very pale, quiet and serious. "Sally," fake name, he said, "I saw an abominable snowman. It came out of the woods right behind me." I had absolutely no reason to doubt my brother. He is not the kind to tell stories or lie. It was hard to understand because we both knew abominable snowmen were in Tibet. They weren't in the UP of Michigan, but I could see the huge tracks in the snow. It came up behind me and stepped over the fence next to me, which was a 5-strand barbed wire fence. It stopped and looked down at me, stepped over the other side of the corner and left. It kind of looked irritated, my brother said. I asked him what he did. He said, "It looked down at me. I looked up at him, then just looked straight forward and didn't move." I don't know why, but all through the rest of our childhood, we were all over in the woods of our area and never were worried or scared. We picked berries, rode our bikes, made forts, etc. We could understand our hunting incident because we knew abominable snowmen were only in Tibet. But still they weren't. How do one get to the UP? Steve, you asked why people need to see pictures. In our case, it helps us wrap our minds around what happened. It helps us understand and come to terms. For experiencers like my brother and I, it frustrates us when we hear people have clear photos or excellent proof, but won't share. Don't even say that then. What's the point? It isn't helpful. Well, it might not be helpful, there might not be a point, but the fact is, it's honest truth. People have shown me things, told me things. There's other people who have possibly access to some photographs and they're working on getting them. And it is what it is, man. I share exactly everything that I have between my ears that I can share with you guys. And if somebody shows me some photographs and they don't want to share them publicly, I'm going to let you guys know that's going on. And if I do let you guys know that's going on, then maybe some of the people who have photographs will be knee-jerked into reacting to get over whatever it is issue they have with sharing them, and they'll share them with everybody. So, moving along. My niece had a large Bigfoot run across the road in front of her one night just 5 miles from this location. My mom has heard a screaming roar so loud one evening she ran to close her patio door in the same location. One question has always bothered me. If these beings are so intelligent, why don't they wait for traffic to pass before they cross the road? Thank you for all you do. I'm in my 60s now and I still live in the woods, but in a different state, now next to Canada. I have learned some safety tips from your videos, and now they make me feel more comfortable. I hope we can someday know the whole real truth. Sincerely, Sally. By the way, I'm near the Grand Portage Band of the Chippewa and the Anishinaabe. One tribal member told me they have heard Bigfoot sometimes when in the woods hunting or camping. She said the tribal elders have said the Bigfoot speak ancient Ojibwe. Well, that'd be pretty freaking terrifying to be a little boy and look up at one of those, wouldn't it? And the annoying look on their face is far more common than it isn't. Numerous people have stated the fact that when these things were looking at them, they looked at them with, quote, disgust or absolute hate, or looked at them like they wanted to kill them. And that can be quite alarming, right? But I guess if they want to get their point across without violence, that's one way to doing it. Why some of these things screw up and get seen, I don't know why. Sometimes I've been catching myself wondering if many of these things aren't even here full time, you know? It's like that one incident up northern BC in the oil field in the middle of the wintertime. That one where the guys were stuck up on the drilling rig at the top looking down at this thing as it just kept on walking around the lee, squatting down and looking up at him like it was in awe. And, had the gas burn off flame blazing away up there. And I often wonder why that thing would have reacted like that, because it's no secret those things are all over the north in the oil patch. And that thing's acting like it just first seen it, you know? So that kind of makes me wonder, well, where did it come from? Why wasn't it familiar with what it was looking at a long time ago? Because those things are everywhere up there. So anyways, a few little clues that sometimes catch me wondering why these things... why they act the way they do, like they just got here and they're surprised or they're in shock to see the things that they do see. But anyway, thanks for sending in that email. Hopefully it helps somebody out there as well. There is no shortage of this action going on in Michigan, that's for sure. And it is what it is, right? Well, I got you guys here. I'm going to I'll dig away here and see if I can find another one. All right, listen to this one. This comes from British Columbia, from Vancouver Island, where I grew up, and where there's loads and loads of encounters over there still today. Hello, Steve. I recently sent you my last encounter, but I left out some interesting details and uncertainties. Here's the updated email. I put a lot of thought into this experience I'm about to share with you. It happened September 4th, 2020. I took time to reflect because I don't want to come across as a kook who thinks every snap of a twig in the forest is an 800-pound giant. I've had several experiences with these Sasquatch people, and only one of those I can unequivocally verify. I can verify because I looked directly into the eyes of the being. This experience was also confirmed because my childhood friend was standing next to me and also looked directly into the eyes of that same being. Years after the previous encounter, I had another experience. This experience happened while camping with some friends. We were camping and fishing on the riverbank of the Quatsi River. This river is located on the north end of Vancouver Island. We would hike up the river to a nice sandy beach. It was also miles away from civilization or any of our parents. This encounter took place early in the morning. I woke up after hearing shuffling outside the tent. I took a body count and realized everyone was in the tent. The embers were still burning from the fire, and the creature cast a shadow on the tent. The shadow was a bipedal figure, and it moved through our camp and at one point stood over the tent. After realizing what it probably was, I froze up. The figure left the camp shortly after. I don't know if I went back to sleep. In the morning, I found out I wasn't the only one awake then when this took place. That morning, we found a footprint in the riverbed approximately 10 feet from the tent. The print was large and appeared human. It was the kind of print that had dermal ridges. The one thing that stood out from that experience was how still and silent the forest was the day before and even after. Unfortunately, this was the days before digital cameras and smartphones, so we don't have any photos. The print had me rattled, but for some reason it didn't stop us from camping the remainder of the weekend. It's that youth ignorance, I guess. In my teens, I started working summers at an isolated fishing lodge at Goletta's Channel. The lodge was on the water, with the shore just 15 to 20 feet from the back of the lodge. It was normal for all the guests and my bosses to be out fishing, leaving me plenty of time to get all the tasks done around the lodge. This account happened on a day that was again very still and the forest was silent. I was in the back foraging weights when I got a sudden feeling of someone or something watching me. I stopped making weights and looked around to see if any guest arrived, but I was definitely alone. The feeling had me nervous, and I felt that whatever it was in the forest and watching me. My sixth sense was on full alert. Needless to say, I was very happy when the boat started to arrive that evening. Another thing worthy of note, it wasn't out of the norm to wake up in the middle of the night to hear unknown sounds and screams coming from the shore. Every so often, guests would question us on these noises. This latest experience happened at a provincial park campground in northern Alberta. The park is called Long Lake Provincial Park. It's a great area, and the best part is there's no cellular service. My wife and me grew up camping on the West Coast, camping in areas that didn't require payment, no camp attendance, and sleeping in tents covered by large tarps. But these days, we most often camp where there's power and water. Camping was some of our favorite memories as kids, so naturally we wanted that enjoyment passed on to our children. I enjoy sleeping in the tent, nothing better than the fresh air all night. But after one extremely hot summer, tenting with a 1-year-old, we decided to buy a trailer. This trip we were camping in the back end of the campground, an area with no hookup and required a generator. We arrived late on a Thursday night, 10:30 p.m. We only seen one group of campers as we were driving through the campground. It wasn't until Friday afternoon that everyone arrived. When we pulled into our loop, I stopped to fill the trailer with water. It was a beauty night. Stars were bright and the moon was large and full. The first thing I noticed was how it was very still and the forest was silent. After setting up and getting the kids to sleep, we shut down the generator and sat outside and enjoyed a couple of drinks. We didn't have a fire that night. We just sat and enjoyed the peace and quiet, and the stars through the trees were amazing. We decided to call it a night around 12 a.m. As we were getting ready for bed, we heard what sounded like a raccoon or a fox fight. It lasted for a few minutes, and then the forest went back to silence. I opened up one of the windows so I could listen for any more animal activity. The kids almost always take my side of the bed, and I usually sleep on the fold-out bed. Things were no different this night. I woke up early in the morning to use the bathroom, approximately 4 a.m. One thing to note is when I woke up, the battery for the camper was running low and the furnace was trying to cycle on but kept dropping out, so I turned it off. I know batteries seem to drain when these beings come around. When I returned to lay down, something right outside the trailer growled in a low, reverberating, and disturbing tone. It only lasted maybe 10 seconds. I instantly froze and listened. I tried to convince myself it was a bear and not a 9-foot Sasquatch, and that there was nothing to stress about because we're in a trailer. Like that's any protection. But as I was laying there fighting my thoughts, this overwhelming feeling kept me awake. I could feel its presence. It also kept me from opening the blinds and looking outside. It was what happened next that has me convinced that this wasn't a bear, like I already needed convincing. It was starting to get close to sunrise, and I could see some light through the skylight. I was looking over at the door's frosted window, and something walked next to the trailer, causing the window to black out. Then, moments later, whatever the creature or creatures that were strolling through the campground let out 4 or 5 unnerving screams. I don't remember how many because it had me terrified. These screams were human-like, but much louder. The screams weren't screams humans make when frightened. The screams were methodical, like a form of communication. I've heard similar screams on YouTube. The best I could find is an audio clip from Puyallup, Washington, 1973. The screams instantly had me frozen and in a state of disbelief. It was only 15 to 20 minutes after the screams when I finally started to notice the sunrise. Maybe these screams were a call to gather the troops before the forest lights up. I don't know, or even want to speculate. All I know is that it was unsettling and confusing. I say confusing because this was my last place I thought I would have an encounter. After these experiences, I started to question anything and everything. It's sad to watch people get manipulated through all forms of media. The best thing I ever did was stop watching MSM and delete all social media accounts. What you're doing is a breath of fresh air. Keep up the fight, Steve. All right, thanks for the email and thanks for those experiences. And, it's stressful enough when you have those experiences. And I can't imagine having small children in a camper and having one of these things outside the window growling, especially when you know what it is. What a frickin' helpless feeling that would be, right? And Like we all know, it's a very, very confusing topic, man. It's very, very confusing. You know, a lot of people have compassion for these people, these beings. Some people don't. But let's face it, your natural instincts to protect your children and family kick in above all, right? So, regardless of what their personality may or may not be, they can't be that stupid to think that standing outside the trailer with small children in it and a family and growling is going to win them any friends, right? Or not cause bullets to fly out the window. I mean, seriously. But like I said, the actions of these beings are confusing. The topic is absolutely confusing at times, well, most times. But like you said, some people get absolutely obsessed with the topic, they just get obsessed with it, obsessed with Sasquatch. And others instantly realize we are being lied to about everything and continually seek out the answers and question everything. And that's where I am, right? The amount of absolute bullshit going on in society today is completely overwhelming, completely blatant. And it's just absolutely confusing how the majority of the population just sits there like a bunch of window lickers watching all these evil dirtbags lie, manipulate at such a large, grand scale and don't do anything. But I guess that's what we've been conditioned to do since childhood for the past couple generations, right? Listen to authority, don't fight back, keep your mouth shut and let things go away. And well, I think a lot of us are fast realizing that that's not the right thing to do.